Ryan Waller, Zoning Board of Appeals Chairman. As a preliminary matter, we will start by confirming that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Mr. Rogers?
Yes.
Ms. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Yeomans?
Yes.
Mr. McCusker?
Yes.
Mr. Adams?
Yes.
Ms. Biswas?
Yes.
Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Ms. Koshavos?
Yes.
And I don't believe Mr. Berger.
Yes.
And we'll have each person confirm as we reach there. Good evening. It is 7:04 p.m. This open meeting of the Grafton Zoning Board of Appeals is being conducted remotely, consistent with the legislative acts of 2021, Chapter 20, Section 20, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during a state of emergency. This meeting is convening via Zoom video conference as posted on the meeting agenda, which can be found on the Town of Grafton website. Please see the meeting agenda for further details on how to participate remotely. Please note that this meeting is being recorded. All participation within this meeting will be visible to others. Accordingly, please be aware that other people may be able to see you and that you should take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording of this meeting, and the recording may be published or rebroadcast at a later date. This meeting will feature public comment. To request acknowledgement to speak, please use the raise hand feature in Zoom. The meeting administrator will enable you to speak when it is your turn. For those on the phone exclusively, the AV staff will coordinate with the meeting administrator to allow you to speak. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be done by a roll call vote. Okay. So there's a couple administrative things I think that we can just put to bed right away. So case 876 for 244 Worcester Street. They, I believe, have withdrawn their application. Correct, Katrina?
Yes, they submitted a letter on April 14th requesting to withdraw without prejudice.
Okay. So at the last meeting on, was it March 23rd?
March 24th.
We had this case on the agenda, but we didn't address it. We didn't continue it. We got an opinion from town council, and we're advised to just roll it to this meeting. As the application is being withdrawn, I don't think there's any prejudice to anyone by doing that. So at this time, I entertain a motion to allow the withdrawal of case number 876 for 244 Worcester Road.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Do a roll call vote. Mr. Rogers?
Whoa,
Yes.
wait.
Oh, yes.
Can we have some discussion, please? So we've been carrying on the agenda the variance request for parking spaces. I believe they requested to withdraw the variance request for the height. Has the ZBA voted on the withdrawal of the variance request for the height?
Yes, we did that in the very first meeting in like November or December when we they first came before us.
We wouldn't have voted to withdraw on that first meeting.
I'd have to look back and see, because at that point they had discussed that they were going to withdraw the request for the height variance because they were going to change the height of the building and just keep the variance for the parking spaces. I'd have to go.
the only reason I'm stopping is I just want to make sure that we do this correctly. I don't recall. Of course, I wasn't part of the meetings either, but I had looked and I didn't see necessarily where we had done the withdrawal of each variance request. And I just want to make sure we do this correctly.
Hold on, I can, bear with me a
Does
minute.
anyone remember that? I mean, again, I wasn't at these meetings. Does anyone remember actually voting on allowing them to withdraw without prejudice those variance requests?
I don't recall, and I think you may have a valid point on that.
Give me 1 second.
Or maybe we just make it easy and change the motion to withdraw both variance requests for parking and height.
As
Just be done with it.
as I remember, we found out planning board could handle it. The height.
Yeah, definitely. I just don't ever remember them actually making sure we did the withdrawal.
I don't recall whether we did.
Considering that, Mr. Chair, I amend my motion to include the withdrawal of the variance request for the parking and the variance request for the height restriction.
So just, thank you, Bill. Before we have a second on that. So I believe the first hearing on this was in October.
September 30th?
Was it? So on September 30th, we received a letter that they were withdrawing. Oh, okay, so this may have been following that meeting. The letter that they were withdrawing the request, or the request for relief relative to the height restriction. And it clarified that they're not withdrawing as to the parking variance. So I think what we can do is just vote to withdraw the complete application.
Yeah.
At this point.
I think that's appropriate. And then the other thing, Brian, is I can't vote on it. I don't know if you have appointed someone for this in my absence, but I know I definitely did not get through the open part of this case.
1 second. So Peter, I believe you were here for all of those meetings, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So for the purposes of this withdrawal, we'll appoint Peter Adams as a voting member. So at this time, I'd entertain a motion to allow the withdrawal of the application number 876, the complete application, case number 876, 244 Worcester Road, including the variance request for parking spaces and relief from the height requirement.
Mr. Chairman, there's a motion, an amended motion before us that I'll withdraw, and it was seconded by Marianne. So I
didn't realize
withdraw
it was
my
seconded.
amended motion.
All right. So I'll entertain an amended motion as I just stated. Mr.
So
Yeoman's
moved.
motion was withdrawn.
Bill's withdrawing his motion, and
Yeah.
I think you need a new motion as you stated. So somebody should just say so moved to the new motion.
So moved.
Second.
All right. So roll call vote. Mr. Rogers,
Yes.
Mr. Yeomans,
Yes.
Ms. Reed,
Yes.
Mr. Adams.
Yes.
Chairman votes yes. 5 votes yes. The motion is passed. All right. So let's see. The next item is case number 883, 125 George Hill. Do we have? Is that Jay Gallen?
Yeah, it's supposed to be, well,
Yeah.
Ron, or,
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Here I am. Sorry.
Is there anyone else attending with you on this case tonight?
I don't know, Ron, I don't see Ron on the participants list here, but
he's
I
in
know.
under attendees. He has his hand up. He is here. He's on the phone.
perfect. So we're both here.
Okay. So we continued this case the last hearing. We sought a legal opinion from town council regarding the need for a variance or a special permit relative to this. So what was determined was that because it is a pre-existing non-conforming, it can be expanded as requested without further action from the board. That was the communication from Jeannie Kramer, town council. Is there any discussion or questions on that, Mr. McCusker?
Yeah, I don't think that's quite what she said. She said it can be expanded with a finding. And I don't remember the exact words. I was actually quickly trying to find it. And Ms. Kramer in the past has used that terminology, finding, referring to Section 40A, Chapter 40A, Section 6 finding, that the expansion is not more detrimental to the neighborhood, blah blah blah. We in Grafton have a zoning bylaw that has, I think it's Section 3432, which talks about expansion of existing pre-existing non-conforming structures, that incorporates a Section 6 finding, but basically says they need a special permit. And I think that in this case, they still need a special permit. They do not need the variance that they had applied for. So I think we need to continue with the special permit application. We can let them withdraw the variance application, but I do believe we need to issue them a special permit for this to work. And through you, Mr. Chair, I would defer to our zoning enforcement officer, because he's the one who ultimately needs to give the building permit, and he may have an opinion on what he needs before he can give a building permit.
Mr. Berger?
Bill's absolutely correct. It's 3435. Pre-existing non-conforming structures or uses can be extended, altered, as long as a special permit is issued by the Zoning Board of Appeals, and then your finding is incorporated in that special permit that it's not more detrimental into the neighborhood. So you do need to grant that special permit if you find that they do meet that criteria and you do not need the variance.
Okay. So I guess with that said, Mr. Gallant, when we last met, you were going to look into options to see if there was a way to reconfigure to not need the special permit. So before we even go down that route, were you able to accommodate that, or did you want to proceed with it?
We'd like to proceed with it as originally proposed.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Well, Katrina, would it be difficult for you to send me a special permit?
Nope, I can do it. Sorry
template?
about that. I'll do it right now. Sorry.
And so, you know, we do need to go through the findings for the special permit, you know, when it was built and yada, yada, yada. Establish that it is pre-existing non-conforming.
So I actually have
I'm
them.
just trying to, or if you want to do it, if you want to, I was going to lead us through it, but if you want to do it, that's fine too.
Now, if you have it, go for it.
So to the applicant, Mr. Gallant, just so you understand what we're about to do here, to grant you a special permit, we first need to establish that it is a pre-existing non-conforming structure. And while that may seem self-evident to everyone on this call, I need to document it in findings, so I need to ask questions that may seem redundant, but I need to get it down somehow. So I'm initially doing this by memory, unless Katrina has sent me the form already.
Got it. I just sent it. Sorry.
All right, it's okay. All right, so when was this house built?
1900 plus or minus.
This bill by the assessor's information card, year built 1900.
And what makes this non-conforming? I mean, I'm looking at a print that's so small I can't see it. So is it some distance off the front yard that's making it non-conforming?
Katrina, you have the site plan. You might want to
Yep.
pull that up.
I will pull it up.
Oh, maybe I can see it. This one's bigger. This one's bigger. Hopefully I can see it here.
Well, we could show it on the screen too, right?
Yep.
If you prefer. Do you want me to do it, Katrina? Or do you...
Yeah, hold on. I can give you access. Just
It looks like
Welcome to-
part of the porch, and it hits into the house a little bit. The
Yeah,
right-
look, what I'm
Right.
seeing is the porch is 22.2 feet off.
you should be able to share, Jay.
Okay, I'm not fully prepared here, but I'll get you.
You know, you may not need to, Jay. It looks like it's the porch is 22.2 feet off the front lot line. And I assume
Right.
30 foot's required?
That's correct.
Right. I'll call it up just so we have a visual. I found it. Just,
That's correct, Bill.
so this is what we're talking about this corner right here, obviously. There's the setback line. So as was stated, it cuts through the existing house partially. And the existing porch is this dashed line that's a little hard to see on this, but you can see it, right? And the proposed is this hatched area that's the uniform distance all the way around. and bumps us, closer to the property line as we get to this corner, and that was the area in question.
Yeah, I think the smallest number is 22.2 feet.
Correct.
That's where you are closest to the road. Okay. So just going back, now that I got the template in front of me, when was the parcel purchased? Not that that's critical, but it's here. How long have you all owned it?
In 2021.
Okay, that's fine. It's the agricultural district. Is that correct? This is an ag?
That's
George Hill
correct.
Road? Yeah.
That's correct.
Okay. Do we have 200 feet of frontage?
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
definitely. Quite a bit more than that.
All right, that's fine. So get rid of that. It's an 80,000 square foot lot. I think we got that. All right, 30-foot front yard setback. Structure is located 22.2 feet off the front yard setback. Any side yard issues or rear yard? I don't think so, the way I'm looking at this.
No.
Okay.
Bill,
All right, so we get rid of
Bill?
those.
Bill,
Yeah.
the existing porch is located at 23.9. Stop moving.
What's 22.2?
That's what he wants.
Right, so existing
Oh.
23.9, proposed 22.2, exactly. Bob.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. All right, so that's simple enough. So built in 1900, agricultural district. Agriculture requires 30-foot front yard setback. Structure is located 23.9 feet. So that establishes it's a pre-existing non-conforming structure. Current use is a residence, right? Single-family residence?
Correct. Proposed as well.
Yep. Actually, we've got here, how many bedroom and bath is it
Oh,
today?
5 bedroom. I don't know how many baths. You want me
It
to
wasn't
find
meant
out?
to be a trick question.
I know, I'm sorry.
Well, look,
Today or when we
with
when we
what you're
submitted
doing,
the
is that
application?
changing?
Well, I think we're adding bathrooms. I think we're going to increase the number of bathrooms and not the number of bedrooms. That stays exactly the same.
The original card is listing 4 bedrooms and 1 full bath. That's off the original card before the addition.
Okay, so then it's still 4 bedrooms. I'm positive of that. We didn't change the number of bedrooms. So we have, we moved 1 bedroom to the addition and took it out of the second floor with reconfiguring. So you want me to find the number of bathrooms? Would you like that?
You could, but if it's not,
I can do it.
only if you can do it in next minute or so. Otherwise, let's not worry about it.
I got you. Just give me a second. I'll count them. Let's see. So we've got 1, 2. Just a sec. All right. So on the first floor, we have 1 half bath. On the second floor, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 full baths. So 4 full, 1 half. And
Right.
4 bedrooms. Mhm.
And the proposed use is a single family home, right?
Right.
The neighborhood consists primarily of residences. So I think based on the above findings, the proposed change is not more detrimental to the neighborhood. I assume this is not in the water supply protection overlay district. I'm pretty sure it's not.
It's
That's
not.
correct.
Okay, so that goes away. Perfect. Yeah, so I think everyone heard as I went through it, but just a recap before we do any sort of a motion. Structure built in 1900, purchased in 2021 is finding number 2. Parcels located in the agricultural district is number 3. Finding 4 is that the agricultural zone requires 30-foot front yard setback and the structure is located 23.9 feet off the front yard setback. Based on findings F1 through F4, the house is a pre-existing non-conforming structure. Finding 5 would be the current use is a single-family residence and proposed use is a single-family residence. Finding 6 is the current home is a 4-bedroom, 1-bath home. Proposed home is 4-bedroom, 4.5-bath home. 7 is the neighborhood consists primarily of residences, and based on findings 5 through 7, proposed addition is not more detrimental to the neighborhood. And that's it for findings that I have. So Brian, I think we need to just make sure there's no public comment, and then I think you can close the public hearing to public comment, and then I think we need a motion for the special permit, and I think we also should do a motion to withdraw the variance request without prejudice. I think that's what we need to do.
So let's see.
And Jay, can you stop the share?
I can.
So I don't see any raised hands or any further comment other than the owner of 125 George Hill. Okay, so
I see in Q&A that Ron Ernweiner is saying that it's a 5-bedroom, 1.5 bath. So I think I should change that finding to be correct.
Ron,
Yes.
you can talk. Ron, you can
Okay.
talk. I gave you.
Thank you.
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
the current conditions is a 5-bedroom, 1.5 bath. And what we're proposing is actually 4 bedrooms, 4.5 baths. However, we do have an office room, and I'm not sure, I think by the Board of Health, they may have counted the office as the 5th bedroom. So we're taking like for like as far as the number of bedrooms.
Okay, got it. So I changed it to 5-bedroom, 1.5 bath. Proposed is a 5-bedroom, 4.5 bath. That's why I just changed the findings to.
That would be correct. Thank you.
Thank you.
all right. So any further discussion from the board? And I'm going to get this at some point, but do we have to move to close the public hearing?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I can't remember. But I don't think so. I think you can close the public hearing.
All right, so we'll close the public hearing on case number 883 from 125 George Hill Road. So I'd entertain a motion first to allow the withdrawal of the application for a variance.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. Mr. Rogers,
Yes.
Ms. Reed,
Yes.
Mr. Yeomans,
Yes.
Mr. McCusker,
Yes.
Chairman votes yes. The application for a variance is withdrawn. And I entertain a motion to grant a special permit on case number 883 for 125 George Hill Road.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. McCusker?
Yeah, do we want to do the special permit referencing the plan? I mean, I'm looking at a plan dated October 13th, 2021, and make that Exhibit A. And I guess that may be a question to the applicant. Is that the Is that the right plan?
That's the current plan, the one that I had on the screen that stated October.
The one that was filed with the application.
Yes.
Yeah, so then perhaps the person who made the motion may want to amend their motion to, say per plan dated October 13th, 2021, attached as Exhibit A. And Katrina, you can attach that as Exhibit A.
Remember Aaron, they were babies?
Mm-hmm.
Who made the
I
motion?
think Kay made the motion.
I seconded the motion. I think.
All right,
Brian made.
Mary Ann, then you're on.
Yeah.
Yep.
Me?
Yeah.
Brian, you have to
I
repeat the
suggested
motion.
I suggested you might want to amend it to reference, per plan dated October, whatever it is, attached as Exhibit A. Per plan dated October 13th, 2021, attached as Exhibit A. That was my suggestion. I think the chairman is looking to see if you would do that.
Yes, so I move for an amended motion to entertain updated, referencing a plan dated October 13th, 2021, attached as Exhibit A for a special permit.
It's so moved.
Can I second my motion?
Somebody needs a second.
Bill, somebody, second?
I
Second,
thought Kay did.
They seconded it,
Oh.
so now Brian just has to do a roll call vote.
No,
Yeah, Kay
Mr.
seconded.
Gilman just did. Yeah, it was. So roll call vote. Mr. Rogers,
Yes.
Ms. Reed,
Yes.
Mr. Yeomans,
yes.
Mr. McCusker.
Yes.
Chairman votes yes. The special permit for case number 883-125 George Hill Road is granted. All right.
Thank you.
So at this point, I'll hand it back to Bill for discussion on High Point.
Okay.
Well, can we take Sotir first? Because Sotir's literally going to take 10, 15 minutes before we get into the discussion on High Point.
So
That's up to the chairman.
we can do that. Was anything submitted?
The only thing is, he personally requested from Bob. I did email you guys yesterday, I believe, an email from Paul Knoyer, who's the interim fire chief, that he is okay with Bob issuing the foundation only permit so he can pour the foundations for buildings 2 and 3 before they put the binder coat on. So that was the only thing. It was all, Sotir was in here talking to Bob about it. And Bob asked me to ask Paul Knoyer, which I did, and he sent an email, which I forwarded to all of you yesterday.
I don't recall seeing that. Did I miss that?
Yeah, I haven't seen it either. And I worry a little bit about the fact that it's not on the agenda, and that's exactly why I was asking for the agenda.
It's on the agenda. It's under new business, Prentice Place LLC, request to put in foundations on buildings 2 and 3.
Okay, that's not the one you sent me. I'm looking at one that's revised 4/12/2022. So you've got another one after that.
Yep, hold on.
No, as long as it's been on the agenda and it was posted.
Yep, it was posted on the 21st. And
So the last thing I saw had to do with the tri-party agreement.
Here's the one that I sent all of you yesterday. I'll forward it now. I sent it yesterday. Yesterday at 11:42 a.m. I just sent it again.
Oh, so just for future, it looks like you sent it to zoning department, and I don't think
Oh.
that goes out to us.
Oh, sorry. They're right next to each other. My fault. Sorry about that, guys.
I guess question for Satir, why can't the binder coat be put down now?
The binder coat can be put at any time. That's not the issue. The reason why we asked, or I asked for having foundations only for the other two buildings, what would do for us and the project itself, it will prevent us having to dig the binder when we're working on building number 2 and number 3. The place will be chopped up because there's a limited space that we can work with. And we thought it would be a good construction practice to go ahead and extend all the utilities before we put the binder there to both buildings. So that's number one. The second thing is it will give me the opportunity to stabilize the grounds a lot faster after the binder is put in, as most of the site work around the buildings would have been completed. It is not a request that we want to postpone the binder itself, because the permit itself says you can't build building number 2 until you have the binder in place, which we are working with that scenario. What we're asking for is the Zoning Board of Appeals to consider us to put the foundations only, but no building construction until building number 1 is completed and the binder is in place. So there isn't anything in there that we're trying to do that would be detrimental. I think it's better construction practice. And that's the reason why I asked the board to consider that request. I also looked at the permit to see from a legal perspective, and I'm hoping that Dan can support this request, because the ZBA is not doing anything contrary to what the comprehensive permit provides for. There is nothing in the permit that says there is no foundation permit, foundations cannot be installed. We're not going to be doing any framing. No building permit will be issued for the structure itself, just the foundation, so we can stabilize the grounds and make it a lot cleaner job, knowing that all the utilities are in place. Jim is also in this Zoom meeting. Jim Hawkins is the clerk of the works, which has been helping me build the project. He's with us. And if I missed something, Jim, can you extend the purposes that we discussed earlier?
No, but pretty much the whole idea of putting the 2 foundations in will let our utilities out from underneath the pavement, and also allow us to stabilize the complete site work. As soon as we get the foundations in and we can complete everything. Other words, we'll end up continuously over a couple of months waiting on the pavement. By just putting the foundation only in, it allows us to get the utilities, the fire protection and domestic water into the buildings, and then we can bring everything in and get it all binded.
So in other words, Mr. Chairman, the construction of our first building, it's not going to be complete for another, I would say, probably until August or September. That's our goal, to have the certificate of occupancy for the first building. By that time, the sidewalks outside of the property on Prentice Street all the way down to 140 would have been completed. The timing is going to work either way. It doesn't do any harm to us. We're just thinking that it's a better construction process to have the utilities that would be under the binder that has to be extended to buildings number 2 and 3 are taken care of now. And the only way we can do that is by having the foundations installed. That's the request. You know, the decision, I hope it's in our favor, but you know, you have to let me know what I can and cannot do.
Thank you. Mr. Berger, any comment from you?
I have no objections to this. I mean, it's such a small, compact site that it really makes sense to let him put the foundations in, get his utilities in, get the binder in, and then the mess is going to go away. And I did have a meeting with Paul Canoia, our acting fire chief, and as long as they're not building, he has no objections to it either.
Mr. McCusker?
Yeah, I just want to clarify because I don't like it when people, you know, try to make implications. Look, the comprehensive permit is really clear that there would be no building permits issued. What Satir was saying a few minutes ago is really starting to split hairs between a building permit and a foundation permit. And any other 40B application up to this point, the zoning enforcement officer has treated foundation permits in the same manner as he's treated building permits. If it says the building can't have a building permit, he hasn't issued one, which is why he hasn't in this case either. So the comprehensive permit actually is really clear, at least here in the town of Grafton, that he can't do this. The second point is, what should have happened here is we should have received a letter from the applicant, from Satir, saying he's requesting a minor modification to the permit to allow foundations to be put in. And we would, just as we've done so many other times before, we need to make a determination that it is or is not a minor modification. I don't know if we need to be a stickler about that right now. We really have nothing from the applicant. The applicant went to the zoning enforcement officer. Zoning enforcement officer said the permit says no, got the okay from fire, because that's really why we do that, right? We're not going to build buildings without the binder coat, and that's to satisfy the fire department. Got fire department's buy-in on it, and now here we are. But there's really not been a formal request from the applicant. I don't know if we need that or not. I don't know. I don't know. And maybe Dan's sitting there. I mean, maybe Dan can help us out on whether we really should have a written request from the applicant or not.
The written request is certainly the best practice. I think under the circumstances, we've had a lot of work with this applicant. We have a settlement agreement from the HAC appeal. So I think you can proceed without a formal written request as long as the request is made after tonight. Perhaps Sotir can put it in writing and submit it. And with respect to the condition that Bill's referring to is, I just looked it up, it's condition F5. And it does say that base and binder have to be installed prior to buildings 2 and 3, prior to building permits for those 2 buildings. I mean, I don't remember specifically why the binder was necessary. I'm assuming that came from the fire chief.
Yeah, no, that's definitely come from fire in the past. They don't want a situation where they can't set up the truck to fight a fire because of the mud.
Or an ambulance, right?
Or an ambulance.
Or an ambulance, for that matter.
And this was really, the roads getting into whatever subdivision that we have, like Flint Pond. Flint Pond, if there was an accident or something happened up the street on Flint Pond and there wasn't a binder, we couldn't get and travel that path to get to it, to get to the incident.
Mr. Chairman, I'd be more than happy to submit something in writing for the record. I could do that. It's not a problem either.
Yeah, I would say you should do that in any event.
Okay.
Any other comment from the board?
Just a quick question back to Dan Hill. What was that condition or what section did you just cite on the permit?
F5.
F5. I could share the screen if you'd like me to put it up.
I don't need to see it. I was just going to propose a motion. And I'm kind of thinking it through my head right now. All right, so I'll propose a motion to propose that we allow the applicant's request to modify condition F5 to allow foundation permits before binder coat installed.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded.
Actually, I made the motion. I don't know who said second.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Okay. Either way, motion's been made and seconded. Mr. Rogers,
Yes.
Ms. Reed,
Yes.
Mr. Yeomans,
Yes.
Mr. McCusker,
Yes.
Chairman votes yes. So the minor, the modification as stated is granted.
Thank you very much. Good night.
Good night, Jeff.
Thank you, gentlemen. Have a good night.
Okay. So now I'll turn it over to on High Point.
So this is, first of all, for the benefit of anyone who's participating in the meeting. The chairman and I have an agreement that due to my long history with this particular project, it's close to 20 years now, maybe even more, that I would kind of manage or act as the chairman for things like this that concern this project. So that's why he just turned it over to me. And I think the first step is actually, we are opening case number. Do we have a case? We don't have a case number for this, do we, Katrina?
We do. It's 715.
Okay. And this is a public hearing. So I think we need to read the legal notice for the public hearing. So I'm opening case 715, and we need to read the legal notice for case number 715. Ms. Reed, are you prepared to do that? Do you have it in front of you?
I do
You're
not.
muted.
I do not have. I do not have the
So
legal notice for 715. Can you send it to me, Katrina?
So I'll do it. I'll do it. I got it here. Public hearing notice, Grafton Zoning Board of Appeals, in accordance with section 3.3.11.2 of the Grafton Subdivision Rules and Regulations. Notice is hereby given that Adams Road Company, LLC, High Point Estates, 51 Mountjoy Drive, Tewksbury, Mass. 01876, has submitted a request for determination of completeness to the Grafton Zoning Board of Appeals for High Point Drive and Pepperbush Court. The Zoning Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing regarding this request for determination of completeness on Thursday, April 28th, 2022, commencing at 7 p.m. via Zoom conference. The Zoom link is given in the passcode. Any person wishing to be heard in conjunction with this request should appear at the time and place designated or by letter to this board in time to be read at the hearing. All written comments need to be submitted 48 hours before the scheduled hearing in order to be processed and posted. Copies of this application and plan are available for the public inspection on the Town of Grafton website at www.graftonmass.gov on the Zoning Board of Appeals 40B page. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 2020 stay-at-home advisory, this meeting will be conducted via remote participation. please see the specific link that's provided here regarding these applications. Grafton Zoning Board of Appeals, Brian Waller, Chairman. Says it was published in Grafton News April 14th and 21st. I didn't necessarily confirm that. Katrina,
I did. I checked it. It was in there.
Okay. So that's the legal notice. So I think the next step is really to turn it over to the applicant.
Good evening, Mr. Acting Chairman McCusker. I'm glad you're still with us. Don Bornstein. I'm an attorney with Johnson and Bornstein, 12 Chestnut Street in Andover. I represent the applicant Adams Road Company, LLC. And we have, I believe, our entire project team with us tonight. If they are needed, as noted in the public hearing notice and at the introduction to this item, Adams Road has submitted a request for determination of completion under the town subdivision regulations. The board will remember that through some prior proceedings, it was confirmed and reconfirmed that the zoning board was the proper authority to act on this due to the fact that it is a 40B comprehensive permit. So we filed that with the zoning board acting in the position of the planning board. And we filed this request pursuant to 3.3.5.1 of the subdivision regulations. I don't know that we have much to present tonight. We have submitted a substantial package. And I think the regulations basically call for the board to consider what has been filed for that certificate of completion and inform us as to whether the board considers any items to be incomplete. We believe that the subdivision plan has been constructed according to plan, and that the project is now complete and ripe for a determination under the certificate of completion.
Okay. I know we have a memo from the planning department, from our town planner. Maybe I can put Mr. Goldrick on the spot a little bit and ask him to talk about his comments and review and where we stand in the process from the point of view of the planner.
Thank you. Yeah, so that memo was, if I recall correctly, it was back in March of, maybe been a year ago now. So that was looking at the determination and completeness process and where we were. I understand there's been some back and forth since that date. In my most recent review of the meeting materials that were provided for tonight, it looks like a number of those checklist items have been crossed off. I believe there is still some items to be reviewed in terms of the final plan set, and I don't know if those have been addressed at this time.
Okay, Chris, I'm looking at something from February 11th, 2022. So I don't know if that's an update to the March or the prior year's document.
Yep.
I guess what I'm trying to get to is what are the outstanding issues, and maybe we need to go to Graves because you mentioned plans. Is Jeff Walsh? Yeah, Jeff Walsh is on.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Mr. Acting Chairman. Yes, I have two letters in the record. One is a construction completeness record letter that speaks to construction issues out at the site. That's dated September 23rd, 2020. As of that time, any items that needed to be addressed as of that date out at the site had been addressed. The latest thing that occurred prior to the issuance of that letter was updating making some modifications to a drainage line to capture water from one of the common driveways before it entered the sidewalk and caused icing. The work appeared to have been completed satisfactorily prior to 2020, but as I stated in my letter then, is time would tell whether or not the icing condition continued, that being that the water was actually captured before it could spill onto the sidewalk and become ice. I have visited the site, I think it was about January of 2021, a few days after a heavy rainstorm when one would expect water to be continuing to be a problem if it were a problem. I did not observe any ice formation at that one time. That is only one data point, if you will. But I have not heard of any other complaints about ice formation. I have informally been through the site a few times during the course of this winter, and I didn't see anything out of sorts. So that's where that one remaining issue stands, which is probably the last comment in my 2020 letter. The other issue letter I issued was a review letter concerning the draft as-built plans, acceptance plans, and legal descriptions. That was dated October 22nd, 2020. And at that time, there had been a lot of back and forth. And some of the information was coming in a couple pages here and there, the only pages that needed revisions. But nevertheless, all the plan sheets that were in theory part of the plan set of that time were in order. And recently there was some back and forth again about trying to get a final set of those plans to the planning board, which based upon the latest information I received by email from Mr. Hingarani, it was in fact the correct set of plans in the email. But that's where we're at. I don't have any issues with respect to construction of the roads, the stormwater basins and so forth. Nor do I have any issues with the preparation of those draft as-built plans, acceptance plans, and legal descriptions.
So, Mr. Walsh, I think I was with you right up until near the end when you started talking about the plans that were submitted, and I guess, do we have the right plans, or I guess I wasn't quite following what you said at that point.
Well, what had happened is about a month ago, I received a set of plans from Mr. Hingarani that he intended to forward to the board. And I think 4 of those sheets were the incorrect versions of the sheets. And that happened 2 or 3 times. And then finally, as of, I think it was Wednesday of last week, I did receive via email copies of the plans he intended to forward to you and your board in hard copy. And the versions I received by email were the versions I expected to see for all 10 plan sheets.
Okay, so all right, so you've got in email, you've got electronically a set of prints. And then eventually, I think through this process, and we do need to get actual printed prints. And then I believe, do we need to sign those, or do we only sign the ones that go back to the application?
I'm not sure, Mr. Chairman. I don't know if Mr. McGoldrick could help us out on how the planning board deals with that. Usually when it gets to that point, it's past me.
Yeah, past you.
These are as-built, Bill, right? So that these wouldn't be signed by the board.
Okay, I'm just, we don't do a lot of these. We haven't done a lot of these subdivisions, so I wasn't sure. So are we okay with the fact that we've seen these electronic prints, and I guess I guess I'm used to being able to see in the building department a set of prints.
I have them.
For a project.
I have them.
So you have the actual hard copy prints now that match up to the ones that Jeff says are the finals.
Yes. After the third set he brought me that were incomplete, He was gonna bring me another set. I said, I do not want another set dropped off here till Jeff gives his final approval that everything is fine, which we got last week, and then the final set was finally dropped off. So I do have a full-size set here in the office. Actually, I have 3 sets. One's with the town clerk and 2 are in here.
And is Jeff, should Jeff review those? Should somehow Jeff get his hands on one set to just go through them and make sure these are the right ones?
I can give them to Jeff, but they were the set that Jeff reviewed. I made sure, because what was missing were a lot of the revision dates, and that's what kept going back and forth. They only had the original date and one of the latest dates. They didn't have all the individual ones. We finally got all of those in, and it was like 5 different pages, but everything Jeff reviewed, I have the hard copy of, but I can, Peter can get Jeff that copy if he wants a paper copy of it. That's up to Jeff. But everything I have is what Jeff reviewed.
Here's my concern. There's been a lot of back and forth, and I think a lot of it's been done electronically. So I suddenly don't have a lot of confidence that what has been sent electronically and reviewed by Mr. Walsh is actually what got printed out and handed into us. And you know, 5 years down the road, what was sent electronically will probably be long gone. And the only thing we're going to have is what's in the building department is a set of prints, hard copy prints. So it seems to me that we should have Mr. Walsh confirm that these printed prints are the right ones. Does that make sense?
Mr. Chairman, I don't dispute that, and I'd be glad to accommodate that. What I could do is next week, I'll make an appointment with Katrina, and I'll stop by her office with the information I need to bring from my office, and I'll sit down with those plans. Please do understand.
I think that would be a good.
Yeah, I'd be glad to. Please do understand, It wasn't just revision dates. Those were one of the telling things that told me the wrong plan content was on the plan, or plan content was missing. But nevertheless, absolutely, that was part of it. But more importantly, there was plan content that was incorrect on 4 of the sheets. So be glad to take care of that next week.
Thank you.
Can I ask Jeff a question?
Absolutely, go ahead.
Jeff, there were, over the course of the last 2 or 3 years, we flagged a lot of discrepancies with the easements on these plans. And I noticed that you noted, I think there was a discrepancy in an easement in March. Are we sure at this point, and there were several easements, several drainage easements, are we sure that this final set of plans, that they've got the easements right?
On the ones I saw by email, yes, that is correct. Right. There was an email. There was also an easement up near what we call the tot lot that's not being conveyed to the town. It's still not going to be conveyed to the town. There might be, that easement might be needed for between the different landowners that the easement runs across. But nevertheless, what I would suggest is that we just make sure that the easement, if it's shown, that particular easement, if it's shown on the plans, is excluded from the conveyance. It was not called out in a legal description. The other easements that we were having a lot of trouble with is on like lots 46 and 47, or 47 and 48. Those are incorrect. Those certainly are correct.
Yeah, the part.
Anything else, Dan, at this time? Okay, so going back to Mr. McGoldrick's letter, I'm reviewing his memorandum of February 11th, 2022. He states in here under staff analysis, materials shall include at a minimum, and one of the things noted is item 3B, a compliance certificate signed under oath by the developer and his engineer that the development has been completed according to the rules and regulations, planning board, and town of Grafton zoning bylaws. And Mr. McGoldrick says, we note the submitted material is blank and does not satisfy this requirement. The applicant should have their engineer provide the required certification. So this seems like an outstanding issue. Is this still an outstanding issue?
I have not gotten anything. Well, let me double check. I don't think
So typically that, it's either a certificate or, sometimes it's written on the plans themselves. But I didn't see that on either. So if that's been added to the updated plan set or the certificate provided, then that would satisfy that criteria.
Mr. Bornstein, do you have any comment to that point?
Yeah, it's been submitted, Mr. McClusker. The memo you're referencing actually predates the filing of our certificate of completion request. I believe it's referring to a draft set of documents that were really just submitted for form. So where they reference things being unsigned, incomplete, that's because they weren't intended to be signed or complete. The package at issue is the one submitted under cover of our letter and request for certificate of completion dated March 25, 2022. And we believe all of the items that were noted in the February memo from Planner McGoldrick were addressed properly in that package. The only one item that was addressed separately from the March 25th package has already been covered by Engineer Walsh, which was correcting, I believe, 4 sheets on the plan set. And I think you've just come up with a process for confirming that the hard copy on file in Town Hall is in fact the correct and final set.
Okay, so I am looking at a document here, certificate of compliance. It looks like it was signed by Mr. Hingarani on 2/9/2022, and I guess that's 2/9/2022. Is that the certificate of compliance that you're referring to? That was submitted?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Okay. Compliance certificate is signed under oath by the developer and his engineer. Okay, so I see the engineer's stamp here. All right. Okay. All right, so I guess that's completed. I thought there was one other thing I found here. All right, so I know you were talking, Dan was just asking Jeff Walsh about the easements, but under staff recommendations is not already done, we recommend the easement and grant of road language provided in the applicant's previously submitted miscellaneous materials before the town council for legal review and comment. Dan, have you had a chance to review the easement language, or is there anything that we need to be concerned about there? Are we good to go on that?
No, I haven't seen the revised language. No one asked me to do that yet, but I can.
Okay. All right. That's all I have based on staff review. And at this point, does anyone on the board have any comments, questions, thoughts?
Maybe one question.
Mr. Yeomans.
One question to Jeff Walsh. Were there any trees that were required to be planted on town property, and are they okay?
To the best of my knowledge, it was the typical street trees, Mr. Adams, and they were planted along most of the lots. There were some deficiencies in street trees, and they actually ended up even planting a street tree on one of the undeveloped lots to satisfy the inventory that myself and DPW had been looking at.
So they're all alive now? I drove the development today. It looked good, actually.
To the viability, I am not sure, but as of about a year and a half ago, they were in satisfactory condition.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Yeomans, you had your hand up, and then I'll go to Ms. Reed. You're on mute, Bill. Bill, you're on mute. still on mute. Well, perhaps oh, there we go.
Oh, there we go.
Looks
No,
like you're
there we
not on
go.
mute.
There we go. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Assistant Chairman tonight. You know, I've spent some time looking at this request, and I'm not in agreement with the applicant seeking that this is a complete project. And I'm going to just take a few minutes to go through some of you know, my thoughts. And the major concern I have right now is that there are supposed to be 17 affordable houses in this development. To date, 15 have been built, and there are 2 to go. There are 3 open lots yet to be built upon. And I have a number of questions regarding those 3 lots. And I'll just go through these questions that I have quickly, and then I can summarize, you know, my concerns and answer any questions they might have of me. 5 High Point Drive, which is also not in the plan that I saw, as and I think it goes back to the original site plans, a lot 252. This lot is in front of 3 High Point Drive, which was the original house owning the parcel, and that was purchased and developed into High Point Estates. This particular lot in the area of the corner as you enter up into the hillside of High Point Drive was the site of many drainage issues in past years. And the lot presently has trash, dirt piles, and construction debris on it that's, you know, been there. And the question I have on that lot is that in light of past drainage issues, will this lot even support the septic system for a new house? And what's interesting to me is that this afternoon I received a copy of the report that I think we all received. It was a multi-page report from Tetra Tech. And in the report, which was submitted on behalf of the Zoning Board of Appeals, in looking at the issues and drainage issues on this particular house, which is referred to as lot 3, it says that we recommend the developer be required to address the resulting stormwater impacts prior to the town's acceptance of roads or release of performance bonds. And I was of that opinion before I received this report this afternoon. So we have a drainage report from a study that's been conducted that you know, basically says in conclusions, in their conclusion, that the drainage issues continue to exist on this development and impacting this particular parcel. And if I go further up the road, and so it's the first lot is number 5, and number 16 is the next open lot of the 3 that are, and this is a lot on the right-hand side, halfway up the hill. And if you drive up there and look at it, it has a steep immediate slope downward stretching to the point in the rear that has the planned water detention basin on it to distribute the road runoff into the abutting wetlands. There's an easement on lot 16, and the abutting lot before it, lot 14, has an existing house on it. And both show a 15-foot access easement on the site plans. The easement was required to provide access to the rear detention basin for future maintenance in the town. And it also It's an easement that can be used to access the open space abutting the rear of the homes along this side of Hill Point Drive as you're leading up the hill into eventually that 30-acre open space at the top of the hill at the cul-de-sac of Pepperbush Court. My understanding is that, and the concern I have with the plans and the easements, and there's been mentioned tonight by, I believe, Jeff Walsh, who mentioned some of the easements, in that, as I understand it, that plans do not create a valid access easement. And my question on this easement and others relative to accessing the open space area is the easement shown in descriptive text on recorded deeds for 14 and 16 High Point Drive. And again, it's my understanding that plans alone do not create easements, that there's a descriptive part on the deed that's registered with that particular parcel. So I would want to see documentation that these easements have been properly recorded on the lots that where they're resting on presently. And if you look at the open space parcels, and excuse me, before I get to that, the third lot is number 95 High Point Drive, also known as lot 274. And this is the lot if you, rather than take the right, if you just went straight ahead as you come in on High Point Drive, and it's the third lot up on the right-hand side, excuse me, the second lot up on the right-hand side. It's just after the model home that they had, which was on the right-hand side. And that lot, it's a trash lot. I mean, they're all, not graded. I understand something's going to be built on it, but in the interim, I think that the developer could do a better job for the people that live in this neighborhood who have to look at this on a constant basis. And in the third thing, I'll look at the open space parcels. And as I mentioned before, on the lower part of High Point Drive, on 14, lots 14, number 14, and number 16, there's an access easement into the back of that lot. Also further up, there's access points on High Point Drive that go into a 13R High Point Drive. It's also known as lot 282, and that's a 1.37 acre parcel. It's landlocked, and open space to this, access to this open space is provided by an easement at 11 High Point Drive as shown on the site plans, and open space access easements between 85 and 87 High Point Drive as shown on the site plans. And again, and Bill, if you remember, you and I and Jeff Walsh walked these easements. I think it's maybe now 3 or 4 years ago when we had questions about, access and where were these and how were they marked. So I guess, I have concerns, and I'm going to summarize my concerns. And I think that immediately the 3 lots should be cleaned up now before any further building takes place. I think the neighborhood up there deserves nothing less. That they, while these final lots get built on, if they can be built upon, I think they should look better than the way they look now. And I personally want to see the 2 affordable housing units to be built first as soon as possible. And the market rate house can then be built. And I don't know if there's a stipulation that states that can take place, but I I want to see the two affordable housing units properly built. And after I see all the building, then I can be assured that the remaining curb cuts and driveways or utility access for each of the three lots will have met the requirements of our highway department. And I personally, as a member of this board, want to see written verification on all lots providing any and all access easements to the open space, and that show us as a board that the text is in there and properly recorded on those deeds at the Registry of Deeds. And the reason I am asking for this is that when this project is complete and the developer is back in Tewksbury, I don't think the town should be dealing with questions that come up if somebody who owns a house that has access to these open spaces is then going to say, why are these people walking across my lot to get at that open space? They don't have a right to do that. I just want to make sure that the easement properly states that this is an access easement to that open space. And until these objectives that are met, that I've stated, I am opposed to the release of any remaining surety funds or bonds associated with this 40B comprehensive permit project. And I'm in opposition to the acceptance by this board, as is being sought this evening, for it to be considered as a completed roads project, ready to be presented to our select board for their approval, and then to seek further approval from a May town meeting. So those are the things that concern me, and that the biggest concern that I have is this project owes this comprehensive permit to affordable houses, that if they were built, they could be sold to someone that is seeking to live in this particular area.
Okay, you said a lot there, Bill. I've boiled it down to three issues.
Yes, I did.
So to Mr. Hill, considering what is requested before us tonight, as far as the completion of the roads and infrastructure, the fact that some number of lots is not complete, some number of lots have not had houses built on them. Is there any correlation there? Can we deny the request tonight because they haven't built all of the houses?
No, because what's being requested is basically you're stepping into the shoes of the planning board with respect to a subdivision completion. And there's plenty of subdivisions out there, probably in Grafton as well, where lots are not built upon when the subdivision is completed. Empty lots can linger for years and decades for whatever reason. So that's a separate issue. The developer has an obligation under the comprehensive permit and under the regulatory agreement that was signed for this project to build a certain number of affordable units for this project in exchange for the zoning relief that it received. So it has still a binding legal obligation to do that. But what's been requested today is a separate issue, really having to do with the completion of the roads and the infrastructure.
Okay, thank you. With respect to the discussion of easements, Dan, have you reviewed or seen the easement language in, I guess it would be all of the titles for the land that has easements on it? Have you seen and reviewed those, or do we have any knowledge that they're proper?
I looked at the easements, I think 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, when we first started this, and I did raise, I think, a few discrepancies. I think there were some easements in the wrong location, and that's why I asked Jeff. So if you'd like, I'm happy to take a new look at all the easements that are shown in the plan, making sure we have commensurate easement documents, as Bill Yeomans mentioned, and making sure that they were drafted correctly. So I'm happy to do that, but that's going to take me a little bit of time. I have a trial starting in a week, and I'm probably not going to be able to get to that until the end of May.
Yeah, so, I think that that's something that should get done. And if, if you had just said to me that, yeah, we reviewed that and it was all set, then we're done. But you didn't say that, so we haven't. And I think we need to make sure that these things are correct before we, accept this project. That's all part of the drainage and infrastructure, et cetera. I think it's appropriate to make sure that that's reviewed and proper, as Mr. Yeomans suggested.
And while we're on
that's
that
an
topic,
outstanding issue.
Yeah, while we're on the topic, it would be very helpful to me if the applicant's attorney could basically give me, the plan and identify, perhaps by a numbering system, this is easement 1, 2, 3, 4, and then match it up with the exact document that they say matches the easement that's on the plan. That would expedite my review if they're willing to do that.
Mr. Bornstein?
Thank you. We'd be willing to provide copies of the deeds that reserve the easements. I don't think that will be a problem. I think we've provided them in the past, but I don't see a problem with providing a set of those.
Okay, and then as far as the empty lots being cleaned up, is Mr. Ingrani or Mr. Bornstein, or have any comments on that?
I can give you some information on that, and I'll note that we're happy to provide copies of those deeds for Attorney Hill's review. I'll note those are outside the parameters of the requirements under the certificate of completion regulations, but we're happy to provide those as additional material for the board to review and for Attorney Hill to review. On the remaining 3 lots, I discussed that topic with Mr. Ingrani and his builder Tim today. They have confirmed that the building department has applications for all 3 of those lots to be constructed. They have a package of documents. You recall 2 of those lots were subject to an enforcement order that's since been lifted. There were some septic designs that had to be updated. Those are all in process. So the expectation is all 3 of those lots would proceed in the short term. And that, and we do recognize that the remaining market rate lot would be the last of those 3 to be completed, that the affordables have to be completed first. And if Mr. Ingrani or Tim have any comments to add to that, they're welcome to chime in, but I think that's the story on the remaining 3 lots. They're going to be constructed soon, paperwork's in process, approvals and septic design has been updated, and we're just waiting on building permits and to get going on those last 3 lots, with the affordables being the first 2 of the 3.
Thank you. Ms. Reed?
So the detail that Mr. Yeomans went into was exceptional, and I don't have exact lot numbers, but we all remember the homeowner that had all the water coming into her property, and she had all the videos and all. How was that resolved? Has that been resolved? And does that have anything to do with releasing the determination of completeness and the surety? Like, there were a few people that really had major issues with what was happening on their property after it was completed. And where are those particular, maybe someone can explain what's happened with that in particular. I remember that was a really major situation with a woman that was having a lot of problems with water and basements. And have those been resolved?
Yeah, it's an excellent question, and Ms. Picconi is actually on the Zoom. I expect we might hear from her, but what we did receive today from Sean Reardon. Now, just to kind of take a couple of backwards, we did engage a I don't know if it's a wetland scientist or what his exact qualifications were, but we did engage someone to review, an independent person to review the overall, water and drainage management in the project. And we did get his final report today. And I think that went to everybody. And, the bottom line is, at the end of his mail, at the end of his letter, he states, I'm just trying to find it here. Conclusions, recommendations. It is our firm opinion that construction on house lots surrounding lot 76. So, okay, lot 76 is the one in question. That's the one that was getting a lot of flooding.
Yeah. Okay. I remember that number. Okay.
Yep. It is our firm opinion that construction on house lots surrounding lot 76, and in parentheses, lots 53 to 55 and 73 to 75, has resulted in a clear, consistent, and substantial increase in the amount of surface runoff flowing through and over lot 76, and has likely resulted in similar changes in groundwater conditions. We recommend the developer be required to address the resulting stormwater impacts prior to the acceptance of roads and release performance bonds. So that's where we stand with that. I agree that it is still an outstanding issue. In my opinion, that's part of the stormwater management, the infrastructure, et cetera, and it needs to be addressed before this board can release, accept this infrastructure and release those bonds. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
But we did receive that today. It came in late, so I understand that members haven't had a chance to read it and digest it, but I think the summary is not ambiguous. It's pretty clear.
Yeah. Okay.
Other questions or comments or thoughts from the board? Then at this point, I'd open it up for public comment. Katrina, I see we have a few people with their hands up. Do you handle letting people speak and bringing them in?
Yes, I have to push a button to allow them to talk. So you tell me who you want to talk first and I will allow them.
Well, Anand Patel had a hand up first, so let's just go with that and then pick it after that.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Chairman, for allowing me to speak. I live next to that empty lot.
Okay, excuse me, Mr. Patel.
Oh, yep.
And anybody listening who's going to speak, I need your name and your address for the record before you speak, please.
Sure. My name is Anand Patel, 93 High Point Drive, North Grafton. So I wanted to just talk about that open lot. I bought the house in 2018, June. Since that time, that next lot number 274, 95 High Point, it's next to me. It's already foundation dig since 2018. It's almost 15 feet, 20 feet dig hole already there since 2018. And I did raise, me and my wife sent out email to town few times about the concern, like we have a kids playing in my backyard. There's a high risk of they can fall in that 20 feet hole, right? So I'm not sure, we raised concern. I did talk to Christopher as well. I came to the town office, met concern and told them, like, what can we do to close that hole, at least for the safety of the people, right? I know there are a few things going on with town and other like the cases, but I'm concerned about the safety of the residents of Grafton, right? We have both the houses, the empty lot between me and the model home. We both have kids, right? They play outside, and there's a high risk. We want town to take action. What I think with the builder or whatever, if you can help us to fill that lot and maybe clean up. As Mr. Williams said, I completely agree with it. It's completely trash, and it has it doesn't look in the community. There's a pyramid right now, of dust, the front of my house. So that's the concern. I hope you guys can take action to consider the safety of my kids.
Thank you. To Mr. Berger, have you heard of this? Or Katrina, for that matter. I mean, is this been addressed within the building in any way, or is this something that we're not able to address?
We stopped the project because of the concerns. Then we gave them we lifted the cease and desist, and it's private. It's private property. We can't go in there and fill that. We need the contractor to build the house. We can't put a fence up.
Yeah, and so I think to the gentleman who was speaking, I'm not sure there's much that we can do in this particular proceeding. It really is not. I don't think it's related to the roads and infrastructure of the project, which is what we're really focusing on for the action that's been requested of us. And I think we also did just hear from the applicant's attorney that they are intending to build those houses. I would expect that to be happening soon, but we have no information on that, so I'm not sure there's much more we can do about it.
Board of Health might
Trina, if we can
have something to say. I'm not sure, but it might be worth checking with the health department to see if they can do something about that.
So I did check on these last week or a couple weeks ago because Bill did, Mr. McCusker did ask me to check on them. And I did email Neil. He said the septic systems were in the Board of Health to get reapproved. I did not check today or yesterday, but I did check last week and I did not find new sets of plans in there to be approved. The one building permit that was somewhat okay, they were supposed to have scheduled a meeting with Bob to review it and none was ever scheduled. I did ask Bonnie to reach out to Neil and schedule a meeting, and I honestly don't know if that has been done. That you would have to ask Mr. Berger on. But that's the status of those 3 lots as of 2 days ago, or actually last Friday.
Well, thank you for that. That's, I think that's good information. But I think what Dan was referring to was with respect to the hole or the safety of the lot that Mr. Patel was speaking to. Perhaps there's something that the Board of Health can help with there as well. I've got to assume that if Mr. Patel came into the building and spoke to somebody in the building department or whatever, that, if there could have been a health and safety issue, that you would have directed him that way or perhaps even discussed it internally. But I agree. I mean, if there's a health issue, then, maybe the Board of Health should be involved as well. So I guess we can move on to the next person, Ms. Picon.
Go ahead, Nancy.
Hi, how are you guys tonight? Thank you for letting me speak. I just want to mention
Nancy, name and address, please. I don't.
Nancy Piccone, 3 High Point Drive. I think we all know who I am, but that's okay. I know I got to do it. You guys are great on procedure, by the way. Best board in town. I do want to mention that I did call OSHA and another state agency about the gaping holes that are very dangerous for these people with little kids, because my grandson also comes over my house, and the trash accumulation and everything. And unfortunately, they won't do anything if you won't do anything, like Mr. Berger. So sorry about that to the neighbor, but I tried because it is a dangerous situation and it's right on abutting my property as well. The other thing I just want to mention real quick about issuing 2 building permits for 2 more lots abutting me while I'm in the middle of a lawsuit with this whole water nightmare seems like a bad thing to do, because those are going to get graded right towards me again. I mean, do you understand? You guys don't even understand the volume of water, but I think Sean Reardon laid it out very clearly. I was on high ground when I purchased this house. All the water drained away from me, and their building on both sides of my property has flooded my property completely. It's ruined my pool deck, my septic, my fence. There is I got a quote for a drainage plan to address the actual problem, because every house behind the open space is drained towards my property. Every single house, I'm in the middle of a toilet bowl. I got an estimate that's roughly $300,000 to $400,000, and he wouldn't even give me a firm price because of the way prices have, inflation and everything has been going. He couldn't knock it down, but I submitted that plan to Sean Reardon, who said that that plan would work with the structures and the drainage. And Mr. Barlow submitted a plan with a 5-inch French drain going around my property that wouldn't handle any volume of water that we're seeing here. So they sued me. I mean, I don't know if you guys know this, and I'm sorry, but they sued me in a frivolous lawsuit I've been fighting for the last 2 years during COVID. It's cost me $15,000 in lawyer's fees, and I just countersued last week. So if I can lock up those properties, Mr. Barlow and Mr. Hingarani, so that you can't flood me anymore, and the town can't let you flood me anymore, I'm going to do that this week. So this is where I stand. Thank you very much for letting me talk. I'm sorry I'm emotional. These people have ruined my life for 10 years. I've been going to the town 10 years, and you've let them do this to me. It's ridiculous. I'm disabled.
So,
Freaking whatever.
So, Mr. Piconi, so, you know, the issues with the flooding, I think, has been well understood by this board, and this board actually took the exceptional measure of actually arranging for Mr. Reardon to do the review. And you know, I can tell you this member and Mr. Yeomans has already voiced similar concerns, and I think Ms. Reed has as well. So it sounds like a majority of the members recognize there's a problem there. And, you know, as far as I'm concerned, stormwater management, you know, is part of this infrastructure. And, you know, I don't see us, you know, I don't see us, you know, approving the completion here. You know, so that's one piece of this. You know, as far as issuing of building permits, you know, this board really doesn't have, as far as I know, and, you know, I invite Mr. Hill to tell me otherwise, but, you know, I don't believe this board has control or the ability to stop the issuing of building permits. That's something for, you know, our zoning enforcement officer and Bob Berger. You know, but as far as, you know, the completion of the project and the release of the surety, you know, I have a feeling I know which way that's going to go. And I just want to reassure you that this board, or certainly this member, but I think this board in general, understands what you've been going through. We've seen it. We've seen the pictures. You know, we've walked the land. We get it. Just try to understand there's, you know, we have a certain role to play, and we're going to play that role. We're going to do it, but there's other things that we may not have control over. This board may not have control over, but thank you. Besides the drainage, is there any other issues that you want to talk about? And I don't mean to dismiss the drainage, but we get it. The drainage is well understood at this point. Any other issues?
Yes, is there, can my husband speak just for a second, because he probably will be able to state it better than me. He lives here, so he could state his name.
Name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Steve Paler. I live at 3 High Point Drive. Can you hear me?
Yep, we hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. As far as the building construction, so if the lot in between the model home and the adjacent home, there's a vacant lot in between. That property is not currently graded to the plan that was on the plan for the development. That lot is directing water onto this property, 3 High Point Drive, as it's graded now. So therefore, it doesn't conform to a building permit as it sits and should be changed. That's so that stops that one, if you ask me personally. Thank you.
Yeah, so, you know, again, I think that's an issue for Mr. Berger. I mean, you know, we don't issue the permits. I don't know that we have any ability to control whether the permits are issued or not. So I think that's the sort of information that we need to make sure it gets in front of Mr. Berger, and he has to do his job in regards to that.
I do have, if I could just say one more thing. They moved my driveway when they sold the model home. My driveway came out next to the model home when I purchased my house, but according to when I had a survey done like late in 2015-ish, my driveway goes straight out. But unfortunately, they made the curb cuts, like my driveway opening is, just that long skinny part that comes up. They made the curb cuts about 12 feet apart, and it's directly on the edge of my neighbor's property instead of being in the middle of the 30 feet with the required buffer zone, like to the either side of the driveway. And then the builder, Neil, the builder's worker, Neil, cut down a tree on my property that's where my driveway should be, like over a little bit. And there's like a cable running under there, so I can't even get anybody to do the stump or anything. So I can't even move my driveway where it properly is. But when they moved it forcibly, put up a camera on my house and moved it forcibly and left a tree in the end of it, now I'm like, I have those big mud pit problems, and I don't want to fill because I'm not sure, I'm not in the right place according to these final plans, and I would love to see those from Katrina, if I could get those ones submitted, because it shows a buffer on either side of my driveway in the plan I saw, and that does not exist. And there's an electrical box somewhere in the wrong place.
Yeah, I can remember you mentioning this the last time there was some conversation. So to Mr. Walsh, and he may be looking at what I'm about to ask him about.
He is.
I'm wondering if the plans that are included with the comprehensive permit get to the level of detail of specifying where driveways are located. I have a feeling they don't. You're on mute, Jeff? Jeff, you're on mute?
Sorry about that. Thank you. No, the plans do not get to that level of detail. The plans on file with comprehensive permit about driveway locations, nor dwelling locations. The lot of number 3, High Point Drive, as you come in from High Point Drive up to the dwelling, the lot is narrow. I was just measuring roughly, 25 feet at its widest point, and it narrows from there. And then finally, once you get to the larger part of the lot opens up. So the point is, I remember when the driveway was moved, and the driveway was not on the property of number 3, and that's the reason I was told that the driveway was being moved to get that driveway onto lot number 3. I mean, house number 3.
Okay, so thanks, Jeff. So, I believe, and again, Mr. Hill's here and he'll keep me honest. If the plans for this comprehensive permit didn't go as far as specifying things like driveway, and I didn't think they would,
Mr.
then,
McCluster.
it sounds like this is more of an issue between you and the builder, unfortunately. And I know you probably don't want to hear that, but, if the comprehensive permit said your driveway needed to be in a certain place, and it would say that by way of the plans, then we may, there may be something that this board could do, but without that level of detail in the comprehensive permit plans, and I wouldn't expect them, to be honest. I don't think there's a whole lot we can do.
Mr.
Yes.
McCluster, I met with Mr. Berger at one point, and the actual driveway plan that Neil brought in after they forcibly moved my driveway and left a tree in it did actually show a buffer zone down both sides of my driveway. And since I have a copy of every plan that was been submitted to the town here, I can actually go through those and show you that level of detail. And the other problem is I haven't been able to find the variance for my driveway coming out directly on a corner. There should be a variance because there's a bylaw that your driveway shouldn't come out on a corner right at a stop sign. I mean, it's very dangerous. And yeah.
Okay, so, all right, so I'm not saying that you do or do not have plans. I'm not saying there does or does not exist plans. I need to focus on the comprehensive permit and what's in the comprehensive permit. That's the only thing that we can act on, right? We can't act on other things the builder has done and put into writing and things, agreements he does or doesn't have with you or anyone else.
No, I understand
we can only
that.
act on what's in the permit. Let me finish, please. We can only act on what's in the permit. And the fact that there's nothing in the permit about the location of your driveway ties our hands and makes it so we really can't act on anything. With respect to a variance for where your driveway is actually located, the comprehensive permit process essentially eliminates all variances. There's a lot of variances that are needed for the overall project, but those are all discussed in the comprehensive permit in one way or another. And that's essentially the nature of a comprehensive permit. So there's a lot of probably setbacks that are not meeting current zoning. The overall, density, there's a lot of things that do not meet zoning that you would think perhaps need a variance, but that's all part of the comprehensive permit. So no, there's no variance for your driveway or anyone else's if they're in a similar situation.
Okay,
That's what the comprehensive permit does. That's the comprehensive permit.
I understand. The last infrastructure point that I have, I did bring up at the last time I spoke at a meeting, and I believe Mr. Walsh looked it up, that the electrical boxes that are on my property at the end of where my driveway should be were actually supposed to be on the lot next door at the model house. And he did look that up last time we were on the call and confirmed that they are on the wrong lot. And I don't have an easement on my deed for those electrical boxes as well. So just as far as infrastructure goes, that's all I have. Sorry, thank you.
Mr. Walsh?
Mr. Chairman, I don't recall that discussion. I can't confirm it nor deny it. I can tell you, to the best of my knowledge, I do not have the underground residential distribution plan. That's called the URD plan that's prepared by National Grid, that shows where the electrical facilities are proposed. I typically don't get those plans. They come about long after definitive plans, or in this case, comprehensive site plans are put together. Again, I know I don't have those plans. I would have had a discussion based upon those plans if I had a discussion, but again, that discussion, I don't recall whatsoever.
Okay, thank you.
Well, can I interject, Patrick Garner?
Go ahead, Mr. Garner.
Yeah, I just want to confirm what Jeff is saying. My firm was the design firm for this, and Kaneo Lala was the design engineer. And we have nothing to do with the placement of these electrical boxes. It's completely outside of our control. National Grid comes in and does that, and it was not part of your approval process. The box is where it is based on them coming in and placing it where they wanted to put it. So that we've heard about the misplacement of this box for 3 or 4 years now, but it's really outside of local, or we just, none of us have control over that, where the box ended up being.
Yeah, thank you. And to the best of my knowledge, I think in a subdivision like this, everyone, I thought the placement of things like electrical boxes and things like that was supposed to be within the right of way, or some sort of an implied easement or something along those lines. I know I've got electrical boxes out in front of my house. I assume that they're within the right of way, and I don't know that necessarily an easement is necessary for electrical boxes.
Yeah, the developer typically grants a sort of I'm probably using the wrong term, but it's like a universal easement over the entire property that allows National Grid to place these devices where they think they should best be placed. So it's not as if there's an easement and they may be outside the easement. There's nothing that formal. So they just they come in behind the approved plan and do their own thing, and then actually build it. And that has nothing to do with the contractor. It has nothing to do with the town supervision. It's really sort of outside of all of our control.
Thank you. Mr. Hill, did you want to say something?
Yeah, Bill, on the as-built plan that was filed, I think by Mr. Garner in 2020, that the box is actually shown on lot 75, not 76. So this could be a non-issue.
Yeah, that's correct. It's not on Piccioni's lot.
Okay. Trina, I guess we had Sam had his hand up. Katrina, you're on mute, but looks like he can speak. Sam, name and address for the record, please.
Yeah, hello. Thank you for taking my call. My name is Sam, and I'm a 48 High Point Drive.
What's your last name, please?
Your family name, please.
Sam Ajay. And the reason why I called for the past, I believe, 3 years, I've been having this problem, and I have discussed it with Neil since day one about me having a problem with my basement. Water is coming through the concrete to my basement. And since that, I have been discussing it with Neil, and nothing has been solved. I'm just wondering what can be done about it. Thank you.
I'm not so sure there's anything that this board can do. Unfortunately, that sounds a little more like an issue between you and the builder. If there was some way to identify that this had something to do with the overall drainage of the project, it might tie into what we were discussing with Ms. Picconi's project. What number are you again?
48, please.
48 High Point?
Yes.
Yeah, that's up on the hill, isn't it?
Yep. Yes, it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's out of the scope of what we're talking about right now, unfortunately.
Okay, it's all right. Thank you very much for taking my call and calling on.
Wish you could have been more helpful.
Thank you.
Looks like we have a Trey Phillips with his hand up. Go ahead, Mr. Phillips.
Thank you, Mr. McCusker. I appreciate you allowing me to speak. Trey Phillips, 97 High Point Drive. And I appreciate the conversation, and I'll try to keep my points, I guess, to topics that are relevant to this completion procedure. I think the 2 points I would want to raise, although I also appreciate my neighbor, Mr. Patel, mentioning the hole on one of the lots that does abut my property. And I do have 2 young boys who are very curious, and, it obviously worries my wife and I that there's a foundation hole that's been sitting there for 2 years. But I know that that might not apply to this particular proceeding, although I would think somehow that might define into drainage and grading, for a road completion. But I think the point that I wanted to raise was that if we're going to determine the completeness of the project and potentially release any surety bond, I would be concerned that would remove any incentive or obligation to the developer to actually finish the project at any point. Also considering that the 3 lots, 2 of them being 40B, that's a big part of compliance with the comprehensive permit. I appreciate that the attorney brought up that he believes the building of those homes will be soon, but it sounded like Mrs. Koshevos, the secretary, said that it does not seem that process has been started at all. So I appreciate the board listening to us homeowners in this neighborhood. We take a lot of pride, obviously, in our homes, like most people do, and we'd love for the builder to also take pride in the parcels of land that they still own and are responsible for. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just comment. You really touched on something that, quite frankly, I'm a little concerned about myself. We've got the hottest real estate market in years. It's probably been a year since that enforcement order was lifted on those lots, and they haven't been built. I'm suspicious of whether the developer intends to build on them. I question, especially in the current environment, whether he can actually make any money between the 3 of them. Presumably he loses money on the 2 affordables, and I wonder whether there's enough money to be made on the market rate house. So it's a concern. No doubt about it. Mr. Yeoman's expressed it as a concern. I'm saying it's a concern. Unfortunately, as Mr. Hill said, it's separate from the process in front of us. If the roads and infrastructure, et cetera, are all complete and good to go, and we've already discussed the fact that they're not, right? Ms. Picconi's house is evidence to that fact. But if they were, we probably would be obligated to approve the request and release the surety. And it's possible that the lots never get built on. And as someone said, there's plenty of developments all around Grafton and all around Massachusetts that are completed, accepted roads, and lots that never got built on. So it's a problem. We recognize it. There is a limit to what we can do. So we'll just have to see how it plays out. Excuse me. So is that it? I guess everyone who wanted to speak has.
Well, Mr.
Any other
Savage,
comments or thoughts on the board?
I just gave Mr. Savage had his hand up, so.
Thank you. David Savage, 4 Pepperbush Court. Just a curious question. I think I raised this in one of the prior discussions, but so the acceptance of the roads and infrastructure, does that thereby kind of accept the open space for the development as well? And the reason why I asked that question is that dilapidated building at the entrance to High Point Estates, I believe that's part of the overall development, right? And that continues to fall down around its foundation, if there is one there. Who becomes the owner of that when this is all said and done?
Is that the building that's like buried in the woods almost? I'm trying to picture it.
Yep, you're right. It is
used
kind of right to the left of all the manholes in the front as you look in at the entrance.
Bill, I believe it's the old mill building or whatever that's along Adams Road. The brook goes under it.
It was standing until just recently, and now it's falling over.
Yep.
Yeah, it's an eyesore. Right at the entrance of the subdivision on the left-hand side.
And can anyone on the developer side confirm that is actually part of the open space and part of this development and not some other parcel? Mr. Garner, you any thoughts on that, or I don't know, maybe Tim Barlow has any ideas on that?
Yeah, Bill, I'll speak to that, Pat Garner. It was part of the open space. It remains part of the open space. Let me see if I can get my video going here. The comprehensive permit didn't specify any use for that building or any sort of it was not designated as something that needed to be restored or something that needed to be taken out. It was really just not addressed in the public hearing process for the permit, but it, as Jeff notes, it's probably about 30 feet off of Adams Road. If you're facing the entrance to the property, it's to the left. And I've noted the same thing. It's begun to slump over the last couple years. But it is, to my knowledge, the permit doesn't mention it at all. It's just there.
Yep. Okay. I just want to make sure that before we got too much further into the conversation, that it actually was part of the open space, part of the overall parcel. So I think this brings up another issue. So to Dan Hill, I have two thoughts here. One is something like this that Mr. Savage has brought up, is this even related to the process that's in front of us tonight? And maybe that's almost a question for Mr. McGoldrick as well, but is it part of the process, the open space? Is that part of this acceptance? And then secondly, I guess is there an open issue with who actually ends up owning the open space? Right now, Mr. Hingarani owns it, but at some point, I think that needs to get turned over to the town, and I don't know if that's been defined or discussed or anything for that matter.
We'd have to go back to the comprehensive permit see what it said about the open space. I don't remember. Yep. But yeah, I think that's reasonable to have the conversation about the deeding over of the open space to be part of this process, the closeout. I mean, I think that's something that could typically fall within the planning board's purview as part of their closeout process. I certainly would recommend that before the town accepts the public way, that all of these kind of loose ends be tied off, including the transfer of any real estate that has to go back to the town. And I would recommend that the town, not accept title to that parcel until that building is removed. I don't think that's fair for the town to assume that obligation and expense.
Thank you. I've noted it as an open issue. Thank you. To Mr. McGoldrick, what is in a conventional subdivision? How are these sorts of things typically handled, or you have any comment to add to that?
Not really. I mean, I think Attorney Hill summarized that pretty succinctly. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Savage. Appreciate the input. Is there anyone else? I don't see any Q&A. I don't see any other hands up from the public. So we'll go back to any other comments or questions on the board. I thought, Ms. Beeswax, did you have your hand up, or did you want to speak? Okay.
No, I didn't.
Maybe I'm imagining it. Any other comments from the board?
Bill?
So, go ahead, Mr. Adams.
Getting back to that building, I would think that Mr. Hangarani is going to either give the open space to conservation. I would think conservation, but I'm not positive. But if it goes in front of town meeting and the voters find out there's a dilapidated building on it, comprehensive permit or not, are they going to vote to take it? And that's, I mean, I would think
probably not.
Yeah, probably not is right. I would think it'd be in his best interest to get that dilapidated building out of there. It's probably hardly even a dumpster's worth. So,
yep.
I don't think.
Yeah, and I agree, Peter. I agree, and I was going to comment on the first part as far as who actually gets the land. I don't know that that's really been defined. I thought we looked into this a little bit. You may recall this permit wasn't written by Mr. Hill. This goes all the way back to, I think, Compliment and Page or whatever that K&P, that firm was that did this permit. So I have no recollection of what's in it. But that's something that needs to be looked into as far as who gets the land and transferring it and all that sort of thing.
I wouldn't think Mr. Hangarani wants to pay taxes on it forever. So I would think he would want to give it to somebody.
Yep. So at this point, there's definitely some issues that I think need to be dealt with. The drainage problem onto Ms. Piconi's lot is probably the most significant one that needs to be dealt with. We brought up a few other things as far as review of the easements, tying up the open space, how that's going to be dealt with. And I thought there was one more. Yeah, I guess it's all ties into easement. So we do have some significant issues here. How do we want to proceed? And maybe I actually throw it to Dan. What do you think our next step should be at this point? We've identified some issues. Where should we try to go from here?
So I think I would recommend that we ask the applicant to provide us with a response to these issues. The applicant hasn't had the benefit of reviewing Mr. Reardon's memo. They should have that opportunity. They should respond to it. If they deny responsibility, then we're going to be at a stalemate. But I think we should at least hear from the applicant. And with respect to the easements, that's on my plate. So you can expect something from me by the end of the month on that. Just make sure that we have good title to the easements that have been recorded. easements, Baconi lot,
Dan,
or the open space.
well, okay, I'm going to step down you. I was going to ask if I could put the open space on your plate as well, a review of the comprehensive permit to see what's supposed to happen in the open space. Okay.
Yeah, it was a little complicated because we issued a permit, then they got appealed, the HAC decision. So we got to kind of unwind all that to figure out what conditions survived the HAC appeal, and it may be kind of complicated, but we can, or maybe Mr. Bornstein knows. I just don't remember, what the result was for the open space that was supposed to be deeded to the Concom. Most likely, that's probably what KP would have advised at the time, is to have the developer convey that to the Concom.
Yep.
We'll look it up.
Okay. So at this point, I think what we're going to need to do is continue. Mr. Bornstein, you have any comments as far as the next steps here?
I do, and I do have the developer's response, I believe, on those three issues. So as for the easement review and the open space, as I stated before, I'm happy to provide Attorney Hill with another copy of what I sent him before on the easement reservation. But I think both that issue and the open space issue are not part of our request for a certificate of completion. I think those might be appropriate in connection with public acceptance of the project infrastructure, the roadways and the open space and the easements or whatnot, but I don't think they're necessarily part of this completion request. And on Tetra Tech's letter, I can tell you the development team objects to that. I think that's a private property dispute between the developer and Ms. Baconi. I don't think it implicates this process either. In fact, I think that Tetra Tech letter states as much. The opening paragraph to the Tetra Tech letter says, "Please note this finding does not suggest the subdivision's stormwater management system was improperly designed or constructed. To the contrary, the stormwater management system was reviewed and inspected by the town's civil engineer and peer reviewer, and all indications are that it was constructed per plan and operates as intended." And I think that's our obligation in this process, is to establish that the project was completed, the subdivision project, that the subdivision plan was completed. And there's a process in the subdivision regulations to do that. We think we've submitted all the documents necessary to establish that. And we think we're entitled to a certificate of compliance at this time pursuant to the regulations.
Mr. Wallace.
Mr. Chairman, I know we've talked about this in the past, but I do want to remind the board of the subdivision rule and regulation requirement with respect to drainage between lots. Section 4.6.1, lots shall be prepared and graded in such a manner that that development of one lot shall not cause detrimental drainage on another lot, either within or outside the subdivision, or onto streets either during construction or on completion. I don't know how that regulation ties into the determination of completeness process, but I thought it's worthy of bringing up, whereby it is a requirement in the subdivision rules and regulations, and that's what the applicant is before this board for right now, is determining that the project is complete in accordance with the subdivision rules and regulations. So that's as far as I can go with that one, and I'd have to leave it to the board from there.
Yeah, thank you for the reminder. I was aware of that, not necessarily chapter and verse the way you just did, but I appreciate you reminding everyone on this call of that as well. This particular member of the board, I did read what Mr. Reardon wrote, but I have a hard time accepting that, flooding that's happening, due to the construction, is not part of the overall drainage system. And I disagree that it's, a dispute between two private property owners. I certainly would not vote to approve, the request for the certificate of compliance. If Mr. Bornstein, you're saying that you don't care to, you don't intend to provide any other additional information or take any further action, then perhaps what we need to do is put it to a vote tonight. and we'll see where it goes, I guess. Mr. Hill, I mean, does that make sense? I mean, if I don't know what else to do at this point.
Well, I think you could certainly take a vote of the sense of the board as to whether the incompleteness with respect to lot 76 would be a barrier to the board issuing a certificate of completion and releasing the remaining bond and recommending acceptance of the way. So I think that's something you could vote on. I think that we still have a couple of open issues that, frankly, I think we should try to address first before you vote on the certificate itself. But I'm not sure what the applicant wants the board to do. I mean, maybe we should ask the applicant.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, that is directed to me, Mr. Acting Chairman. I think we want the board to take action on the certificate of completion request. We think we met the requirements of the regulations, and we think it's incumbent on the board to take action on it. I haven't heard anything tonight that would suggest there would be more materials for us to submit, or that our application was deficient in any way. It appears we have an impasse over the import of the lot 76 drainage. Those are two private individuals who are currently in suit with each other, each making claims against each other regarding these same issues. I see that the Tetra Tech letter is only supporting our position that the subdivision infrastructure has been completed per plan and that we're entitled to a completion certificate.
Okay. Thoughts from other members of the board? Where do we want to go with this? Your silence is... Mr. Yeomans.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Chair. I think there are issues of stormwater that affect this permit. And I think we should bring it to a vote on what has been requested.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Other comments, anyone?
Yeah.
Ms. Reed, go ahead.
So what Attorney Bornstein is saying is that he feels like the two private parties are between Ms. Piccioni and the builder. Who are the two private parties? Who's she?
I believe so, but I'll let Mr. Bornstein answer.
No, that's correct. It's the Adams Road LLC. They are in suit with each other right now, and we believe the issue regarding drainage allegedly affecting Ms. Piccioni's lot is something that is a private dispute between those parties, not a subject of the certificate completion process, and not something carried by the subdivision plan approval.
So in my opinion, what Jeff Walsh has stated, based on the comprehensive permit, this drainage issue has not been resolved between the builder and lot 76. So I don't agree.
So I'm not suggesting that it's been resolved. I'm
that it's not part of the comprehensive permit.
Yeah, well, I guess I disagree with that. And we're not necessarily here for certificate completion on the comprehensive permit. We're just here to determine whether the subdivision plan has been constructed per plan, which we think it has. We've been at the certificate of completion process since at least November 30, 2019. My client and his team undertook extreme efforts with Ms. Piccioni to try and address her concerns, even though we disputed them. Took many months of efforts that involved the participation of the board's counsel and the board's peer reviewer from Tetra Tech, Mr. Reardon. And we've come to the end of that process, recognizing that Ms. Piccioni will not be satisfied on this issue, and pursued our rights under the certificate of completion regulations. We've put great effort over the last several months into preparing a package as required by the regulations, submitting it, making sure it was compliant with the regulations so the board would be able to take action on that discrete issue. Not necessarily take action regarding unfinished lots or things that are appropriate for town acceptance of ways and easements and open space and a multitude of other issues that might exist regarding the rest of the project. But we're here to say that the subdivision has been constructed per plan, and we'd ask the planning board to take action under the regulations under the certificate of completion process.
So in your,
Thank you.
what you're stating is that you feel that there's not going to be a resolution between the LLC and Ms. Piccioni, and we have to accept that that's not going to be resolved?
Oh, I think you accept that it's outside the board's purview, and it's something that will ultimately be decided by the courts. There are live issues in the courts right now. That's the judge's problem, in short. It's not the planning board's problem.
All right, thank you, Attorney Bornstein. Katrina, I see Ms. Piccioni has her hand up. I'd like to recognize her, allow her to speak. Or maybe she can just go ahead and do it.
Hello. I would just
Go ahead, Ms. Piccioni.
Hi, I would just like to say that the developer, Adams Road Trust, sued me in May of 2020 and fast-tracked it and tried to sue me for $150,000. My lawyer had to actually file an anti-SLAPP suit because they knew I was about to sue them about the water. And I finally, just literally 2 weeks ago, I think somebody's spoken to my attorney, Mr. Hill or somebody, filed a countersuit about the water. None of it was about the water. They were harassing me with a lawsuit, and they finally still have one little thing outstanding, even though they couldn't prove anything. And I just finally was able to countersue. So the water issue is just like barely being addressed right at the moment. They dragged their feet and dragged me out through $15,000 so far of lawyer's fees. This is just not fair. I'm on Social Security disability. These people are like mean. Like, this is not, I just please, the drainage plan was supposed to be complete in the comprehensive permit in stages. It was never completed in stages. They just kept building and building. And the 40B, like what Ms. Kay said, I mean, I have that in front of me, is not only does Massachusetts law say that you can't drain water onto another person's property, but the comprehensive permit says that.
Ms. Piccioni, we've heard you.
I know, I'm sorry.
We've taken extraordinary action to address it. And
thank you.
I have a hunch we're about to take even more extraordinary action right now. So
thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other thoughts or comments from the board? Then I'm going to close the pub. Oh, go ahead, Dan.
Sorry, I just wanted to point out that we have been talking about this independent review by Mr. Reardon for a couple of years, and I just went back to my notes, and we had a meeting on November 23rd, 2020. That was a meeting with the planning board and the zoning board, and during that meeting, that's when we discussed this proposal, which was to have basically an independent civil engineer do this evaluation. And during that meeting, the applicant agreed with this framework. So it's definitely frustrating to hear tonight that they're not accepting it. The whole point of this was to have somebody outside the process come in with a fresh set of eyes to evaluate this objectively. So that's why this happened. Back in 2020, November of 2020, we all agreed that we would follow this process, have somebody come in and provide this opinion. So the opinion is here now, and now Jeff is correct. The planning board subdivision rules and regs do regulate lot development in respect, and this based upon Mr. Reardon's review is a clear violation of that regulation.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just
All right.
respond to one piece of that, if you'd allow me.
Sure.
Sure. I would note, and I think Attorney Hill is aware of this, that with Mr. Reardon's help, there was a fix proposed, and that fix was refused by Ms. Piccioni. And then a second type of fix was proposed, and that was also refused. And there have been extreme efforts over several months to address this. And the answer in response to all those efforts has been no. And now the response has been a countersuit in the existing litigation, which is probably where this issue belongs. And as I stated before, I firmly believe it's where that issue belongs. But I don't want to leave the board with the impression that the developer has been taking no efforts on that. Mr. Reardon did not mention those efforts, which were also reviewed by him, it's my understanding. He doesn't mention those in his report, but those efforts were made, and they proved ultimately unsuccessful, but the efforts were made.
And I can corroborate that, Mr. Chairman. Attorney Bornstein is correct. The applicant did propose a solution that was presented through Mr. Reardon to Ms. Piccioni.
Yeah, and you know, I think it almost doesn't matter. I think at this point, the bottom line is, you know, there is a problem, you know, and regardless of the efforts that have been made to solve the problem still exists. So, you know, I think that's really what it comes down to for this board right now in front of us. You know, I appreciate that people have worked hard to solve the problem, but whether they've worked hard or not, I don't think is relevant. Right? You know, the problem is there, and I think it impacts what we're about to do. So, you know, I think that I think we're at that point where it's probably time to vote. First thing though, I'd like to close the public hearing. And I think a motion, I'd entertain a motion to that the ZBA find in accordance with section 3.3.11 of the Grafton Subdivision Rules and Regulations, the Zoning Board of Appeals issue a determination of completeness concerning the subdivision and authorize Norwood Bank to release to the applicant entire sum it currently holds as surety for the subdivision. So what I've done is just taken out a lot of that language straight from the first paragraph of the applicant's request to us from March 25th. So I think that would be the type of motion we'd want to do. And I'll entertain that motion at this time.
Moved.
Second.
Mr. Yeomans has made the motion. Ms. DeRosiers has seconded it. Further discussion from the board on the motion? Hearing none, I'd ask for us to, at this time, vote by roll call. Ms. DeRosiers?
Yes.
Ms. Reed?
No.
Mr. Yeomans?
No.
Mr. Waller?
No.
Chairman votes no. So at this time, we've declined to issue the certificate of completeness. I think that concludes this portion of this agenda item, and I'll turn it back over to the rightful chairman.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And I'll say goodnight.
Thank you to everyone.
Thank you. Thanks,
Thank you to everyone that participated.
Night all.
So I believe the only thing left on the agenda is minutes. And actually, I believe we need to schedule the next meeting. Well,
Mr. Chairman, there was actually an item, and I may have asked to put it there, discussion regarding in-person or hybrid meetings.
yes.
I have a feeling I asked for that, and I'm not exactly sure why, but I think we're at that point where we probably need to have that conversation about should we, should we move to, completely in-person meeting? I know that I think CPC met today, same time we did, and they were completely in person. They're not doing Zoom anymore. I mean, I don't necessarily feel strongly either way, but I think there may be some potential issues with Zoom and ensuring people have access to be able to speak, et cetera. I just, I want to make sure that we're doing the right thing, and I don't know how others feel about it. I could go either way. If we were to go 100% in person, I would have no problem attending.
Mr. Yeomans.
Yeah, I did notice that addition to the agenda. I think that the Zoom meeting procedure actually allows a greater number of people to have convenient access to the hearings that we conduct. As I look at tonight, I think we had, 31, 32 people, let's take 10 out. So we probably had 20 or 25 people that were in attendance to listen to the case that we just finished. So I think that I don't think we've left anyone out. I think it allows more people to conveniently participate. And I can look at one of our younger members, Mentali, with being able to come home from a busy schedule with young children and actively participate on a board that she'll contribute to in an effective manner and in the future. So I'm in favor of the Zoom process, completely. And I don't see where a hybrid system, and ours is somewhat hybrid now because we depend on Katrina to manage the activity, the Zoom activity, and she's done that, quite effectively with a few glitches here and there, on Zoom, not on her part, and so I think it's been working, and the thing that I like the most about it is that I think it gives a greater opportunity for more people to participate as board members, first and foremost, which is vitally important long term, and to those that have applications for anything to do, whether it's a 40B comprehensive permit or just the regular 40A variance request and special permit request. I think it's worked well, and I would be in favor of maintaining the Zoom just as we are running it now with Katrina's able assistance.
So Katrina, a question, but would we be able to accommodate a fully hybrid meeting?
Well, we should. It's just, it depends what the state does for open meeting law. And because that's what we have to go by. So as of July 15th, I think the Zoom goes away. It was supposed to go away April 1st. They extended it to July 15th. I'd have to check with Candy. We have to check with the state. Now, I know planning meets hybrid and I know select board meets hybrid. And I honestly don't know what's going to happen with regards to open meeting law. I would have to find out from Candy and look at what the state's going to do and if they're going to still allow it. I know with open meeting law, we were allowed to have one, maybe two members dial in remotely if for whatever reason they couldn't get here. But everybody else had to be here. So I don't know. It's something we'd have to look into and see. And it depends what the state does as of July 15th.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be fully supportive of a hybrid, and each person can decide what's most convenient for them.
I think what might happen is we could do a hybrid, but you have to have a quorum in the building. I think that's what the last time I checked with Candy is what they were leaning to. I could be wrong. Chris may know better than I do. Was that you would still at least have to have a quorum in the building and everybody else could be hybrid. I don't know. I'd have to look into it and see. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I mean, to me, this works great. Like I love being able to have my dinner and come sit in my office, and I think it's been very effective. Now, if we're required, yes, then we'll come back in. But if we're not, I agree with Bill Yeomans that it's been really effective, and I love being able to do this on Zoom. So, I mean, I don't find that I have any less interest or any less if I'm here or sitting in person. So I like doing Zoom, just for the record, if we're allowed.
Chris?
Yeah, so I mean, I can double check on the quorum in the building. I do know that for planning board, we typically only have 2 members present in the actual building, and run the rest attend remotely. So that wouldn't constitute a quorum. I'll double check that to make sure, because that does sound somewhat familiar. But correct, if the regulations lapse and there's no change, it would be required for everyone to be in person. You could still have the Zoom component, but you would only be allowed to have one person who is remote. And there's fairly stringent regulations on how they dial in that would have to be followed each time. I can't guarantee it, but I get the impression that the wide acceptance of Zoom may be something that the state is going to move to amend open meeting law to address. When or if that'll occur, I have no idea, but I do get the impression that many communities have seen the benefits, and we're not the only ones having this conversation. So,
I mean, I really can't imagine it not eventually being a hybrid option by default, just from engagement. Mr. Yeomans?
Yes, just a final note. I think we've all gotten better at the exercise of attending a Zoom meeting. It's become more effective over time. A few glitches here and there, and so I think it should continue.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Berger.
So the only thing, if you're going to do a hybrid meeting, is you would need a cameraman or a man in the control room. I don't know if you have one right now, but
Bill Rubido's in there.
That's fine. Peter is on the camera right now. So if you had people in there participating live, then the cameraman will change the camera shot and not just point to whoever's in there, just like planning board does. So your only drawback, and it's not a drawback, is if you go hybrid, you need to have a man in the control room.
Okay. All right, so I think so it sounds like for the next meeting, there's going to be no change, which I believe means we can leave it at each person's discretion. Katrina, if you can just confirm that we'll have someone in the booth.
Bill's in there.
Okay. So, and correct me if I heard that incorrectly, but I think we can, that option until the law changes. And I think I'm going to go in person for the next one. I'm completely supportive of people doing it by Zoom.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. McCusker.
Yeah, I am too. I mean, I think Zoom has made our attendance better, right? And, I don't know if I was supposed to or not, but I attended a meeting when I was stuck in Vermont. I mean, I think that our participation is helped immensely. And that's been a problem throughout my experience on the ZBA is, attendance by members. Especially when hearings span multiple nights and you lose somebody and, maybe you don't have all the, the alternates, et cetera. So I think from that point of view, it's really good. I just want to point out, though, that right now we are running our meeting, even though Peter's in the building, we're running our meetings as 100% Zoom. Okay, so we don't advertise in the posted agenda that you can go into the room and participate, right? So people tonight, if they wanted to participate, the public wanted to participate, they had to do it by Zoom.
Correct.
So I think what I'm hearing you say is we want to move to the hybrid. We're not doing hybrid now. We want to move to hybrid. I think that's an excellent idea. I think I may as well join you in person, maybe not. But I just want to make sure we're clear on that when we drop the next agenda that we make it clear that we're doing hybrid. And I don't know what the difference is in the agenda. I suspect there is something different that says it's hybrid. It's in the room and it's on Zoom. I don't know how. I'm sure we can just look at the select board or planning board agendas. They do it all the time now.
Right. I'll check. I can check with Cindy and I can check with Natalia and see how they do their agendas.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we don't need any advance notice. I don't think you can all make that call, because it could change.
Yep. I agree.
All right. So minutes, I know we skipped the last one. Does anyone have any changes to the minutes from the February 10th meeting? We can just do that one and we'll do the next one next time.
I'm trying to find them. I thought I just had them here a moment ago.
We didn't get them in our packet.
I emailed them to you. I emailed everything to you guys like Monday.
Okay. So the February 10th was probably in the prior month's packet.
Yes, it would have been. But then I emailed them again with the March 24th because I wasn't sure who still had them or not. So hopefully everyone.
Everything went blank. This is when Zoom is tough.
Recording in progress.
I am so sorry, you guys. I don't know what happened.
Sending us home.
Must have been
I'm
the
sorry.
Russians.
I don't even know how I did that.
I thought I hit something.
I don't even know what I did, in all honesty. I don't. Oh, God, I'm sorry, guys. It's been a long week. I'm sorry, guys.
No worries.
No problem.
Yeah.
I'm back online. Somehow I get disconnected.
It was me. I don't know what button I hit. I don't know what I did. I'm sorry.
I thought it was something I said.
No.
So I have no comments on the February 10th meeting minutes. I actually wasn't on that for most of it. But even the brief part that I was on, I have no comments on.
Just on the very top, Katrina, the first sentence, the Thursday, February.
Yeah, February 10th. I fixed it.
So I don't know if others are looking, but I'll go ahead and throw the motion out there. Make a motion to accept the meeting minutes of February 10th, 2022 as amended.
I second.
Roll call vote, Mr. Rogers,
Yes.
Ms. Reed,
Yes.
Mr. Yeomans,
Yes.
Mr. McCusker,
Yes.
Chairman votes yes. The meeting minutes from February 10th, 2022 are accepted. Or approved. All right, so for a next meeting,
So hold on a second. I have one application in, and I had two other people that have come to talk to me that are going to be submitting within the next couple weeks. So just to let you know that. Also, I am not available May 19th. My daughter's having surgery.
So what? Oh, I guess I was thinking we had to reschedule. There was something we had to schedule from this meeting, but I guess not. So if you have one application, though, we have 30 days, right?
65.
Has it
And
been?
it was stamped in today.
Oh.
I think you may have been thinking in response to Dan Hill's statement about looking into the easements by the end of May.
Right.
Well, I think he sent an email earlier asking for the date of the next meeting as well, prior to that.
Oh, okay.
So let's see. Do we want to say, I don't know, June 9th?
The only thing with June 9th is Affordable Housing Trust already has booked the Zoom. So if we're gonna do hybrid, we would probably have to push it to the 16th.
That's fine by me.
Okay.
Anyone else? 16th?
That's
So
fine.
that's still within the 65 days?
Oh yeah, the 65 days isn't until sometime in July. Because wait a minute, I just got it in. Hold on. Yeah. 21st.
Oh, you just got it in now?
Yeah, I just got it in today.
Oh, okay, yeah, we got plenty of time. Yeah, I would say definitely the 16th, and we could even go further out if we want to. But you think you've got a couple others coming in soon?
Yeah, I talked to one guy that's gonna have it into me within the next 2 weeks, and then the other one wasn't sure when he was gonna get it into me, but if I have a date and they call me, I can at least tell them I need it in no later than May 26th in order to get the legal notice published.
Yeah, that'd be a full agenda. You know, I'm good with the 16th.
Okay.
Also,
Yep, that works.
Same here.
I'm
16
fine.
works.
Okay.
I'll book everything.
All right,
Just
great.
to let you all know, I will only be in Monday next week. I'll be gone the rest of the week. I have to move my daughter home from school. Well, actually, no, I have to drive her car home from school while she goes off and plays with friends. So,
Good for her.
yeah.
All right, cool, awesome.
All right, we'll adjourn the meeting.
Need a motion.
Oh,
so moved.
Yeah, I motion that we adjourn the meeting.
Second,
Mr. Rozier, how do you vote?
I say yes.
Ms. Reed,
Yes, I guess.
Mr. Yeomans,
yes.
Mr. McCusker?
Sure. Yes.
Chairman votes yes. Meeting adjourned.